You ready?
Yep.
Okay, let me I'm not going to get caught this time. Hold on before we start this up. This is a compelling pre-show that we're broadcasting. All right. Keep an eye on that. And okay. Motherfucker. All right. Now we're good. I'm an asshole. I eat your children. What's up and welcome to the Pamphlet on Kelly Digital, says Nick Kelly. Adam, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Fan-freaking-tastic. Make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. Also, check out the website, kellydigitalpodcast.com. You'll get this show as well as our other fantastic show, Master Debate with the Master Debater, Quaid, or the Masturbator, Quaid. He can't be any more of a masturbator than Paul McCartney and old John Lennon. They like to, can work it out.
According to article, what was this, a news story?
Paul McCartney did an interview with GQ, and for some reason at 76 years old, he felt it was just time to share some graphic details about his free time with John Lennon.
Yeah, which includes circle jerks and blowing each other, and well, they didn't say anything about blowing each other.
Do you want to come over here and jerk off with me?
Want to watch me jerk off? Jerk my bits?
No, Ringo, you're not invited. It's just me and Paul. We're going to work it out. And they started, singing Help and all the other ones.
They needed help if that's what they were doing.
I got to say, New York Post had the best headline on it. They had a picture of John and Paul, and it said, "Beat the Beatles." They're always a headline.
It's so weird that they, just like you said, that he's at that age, and now he starts talking about this stuff.
And it wasn't to clarify, I guess it wasn't that they were like sitting there looking at each other, just, beating their meat. I guess it was just like they were in a dark room and enjoying their own private time, but in a room together with other friends.
I thought it was in a sleeping bag together.
Nah, it wasn't. They weren't banging each other. They were just,
banging themselves.
Friends. Yeah, banging themselves around each other.
Such a bizarre thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't help ourselves. I can't do a British accent at all. I sound like a leprechaun.
So I saw the other Paul Simon over the weekend. He's doing his farewell tour. He was down here in the Fort Lauderdale area. And
did you go say bye?
I did. It was
bye, Paul.
What was really depressing was the fact that the show was not sold out. I mean, it was depressing, but it was also kind of great because we kind of had nosebleed seats and we got upgraded to some pretty good seats.
Cool.
So that worked out in our favor. But it's funny because where we were sitting, you know, when they do like an arena show, there's going to be a point where like you're sitting basically on the goal line of the far, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when you're looking at a hockey arena, you're like on the goal line.
Yeah.
So directly across from you is other seats. So you kind of have to look to the north or to the south to see the stage. So Paul Simon comes out. Everybody's sitting down except for one fucking guy. And he had to be about 6'5", and he's just standing there, half like leaned back, just like looking at the stage, directly center stage in my view.
Yeah.
He's fucking asshole. And Simon comes on and he sings America, by the Simon and Garfunkel song. And he starts singing, and boy, it sounded rough.
Really?
Like, I just thought, man, this dude's voice is gone. This is gonna be a long 2.5 hours. He gets into 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, and all of a sudden it starts like kicking in gear. By the third song, his voice was as good as it was when he was, mid-20s. But the guy eventually sat down after enough people like yelled at him.
Hey, asshole, sit down in the front row.
Yeah. But there was a girl who was about 6 rows back from him, but she was out of my line of sight. I didn't care what she was doing. She would catch my eye from time to time because she was dancing very weirdly. And it's Paul Simon. I mean, yeah, you got, me and Julio, and You Could Call Me Al. There's not a lot of songs you could dance to Paul Simon.
Yeah.
She's fucking grooving.
Loving it.
And right behind me is like this 80-year-old dude who looks like Chucky from Rugrats, all growed up. He got his pants pulled up to his old man titties.
Yeah.
He's wearing the real blocked out black rim glasses. Just old fucking guy. And he's like swearing at her like crazy. Why?
He didn't like that dance.
Well, because
or she in his way.
Yeah, she was in his line of vision. Now, my wife was there, and she could give a shit less about Paul Simon. So she's watching the interaction between the guy and the girl. All of a sudden, he's playing me and Julio down by the schoolyard, and I'm rocking out, enjoying it, bobbing my head. I just hear Leah go, "Oh my God, he hit her."
What?
Like, what? I'm looking around like, who hit who? What are you talking about? I see 5 guys come rushing down, like, to go after this old guy. Dude, I've been to Insane Clown Posse concerts, System of a Down, Motley Crue multiple times. I've never seen a fight at a concert until I went to Paul Simon.
You haven't been to enough concerts, apparently. Dude, that is crazy. Yeah. Too bad she didn't have that on video. She could have screamed "World Star" in the background when he's like hitting her with his cane.
Dude, it was impressive. So the craziest part was he goes back to his seat. Somebody goes and gets security. They come, they take him out. And about 4 songs later, we see him coming in just to different seats.
Really?
He didn't get thrown out of the concert.
I'm surprised they didn't like throw him in jail.
Yeah, no shit. He just went over and shoved a woman. Like, he didn't actually punch her, but he pushed her, which is still hitting a girl. And
they felt bad for him. They said, "Oh, all right, old dude, you get over here. Don't bother anybody."
Yeah, you're on death's doorstep. We'd throw you out, but you'll probably die before you hit the door.
It's funny it was at a Paul Simon concert, but I mean, what was the age range on that concert?
Oh, dude. I would guarantee I was the youngest person there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, I was excited to be there. Like, I love Simon and Garfunkel. That's probably my second favorite band.
Oh, sorry.
No, they're a great band. They really are. They have a lot of amazing songs, and I know it wasn't a Simon and Garfunkel concert, but there was like one point in the show, and he's talking about, his writing songs and whatnot, and he's just playing around on the guitar. He's like, yeah, and then in the 60s I started, and he starts going into Sound of Silence and Homeward Bound, and crowd
So
goes nuts. They're like, oh.
you get a little story with it.
Yeah. But then he like stops playing. He's like, but oh yeah, that's what I wrote with Artie back in the day. And then he goes on. I'm like, man, that dude better play those songs, because like they got an amazing like response, and he just like skipped over him because he was like just telling the story.
Oh God.
So he goes through the whole concert. He played America. He opened with that. He played Bridge Over Troubled Water, which was a very good rendition, because normally, that Art Garfunkel sings that one and does a fantastic job of doing it. But Paul Simon did good. And then he goes through a bunch of songs. I'm not going to lie, I haven't heard. I don't know a great deal of the Paul Simon solo catalog. I know a little bit. I know a lot of the hits, which he didn't cover. Like, he played You Could Call Me Al. That's what he actually closed the show with before his encores. Mm-hmm. But before that, it was just Bridge Over Troubled Waters, America, and like maybe 3 other songs that I actually heard. And I'm like, ugh, I don't know. This is your farewell tour, dude. That's what you're closing with? I mean, that's a good one to close with, but that's what you're closing the tour with?
Yeah. Then
he came back out and he played some Simon and Garfunkel hits, and he played Graceland, and he shut it down with Sound of Silence, which was pretty cool. But that show will actually be in Pittsburgh. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, concerts are weird like that. Okay, they play a whole list of songs. Then they leave. Everyone cheers for like 5 minutes, and then they come back. So basically, they just want a break, because they're coming back regardless.
Right.
There's never not been a single time where they didn't come back, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he started the second encore with Homeward Bound, because when he ended the first encore,
and then he left.
Yeah, he went off stage, and like when he came out for the second encore, he pretty much came back out without his band. It was like basically just him.
They were like, "We're done with this. You didn't pay us for 2 of these."
So, but I looked at Leah. I'm like, because the tour is called Homeward Bound, the farewell tour. I'm like, there's no way he's not going to play Homeward Bound. Like,
yeah,
he's got to come back out. Like, it's in the name of the tour. Yeah. He comes back out, he plays. I'm thinking, all right, he's gonna go ahead and pack up after he plays this one song. Then he went into the Boxer, which I'm just like, I was like one of those girls at the Beatles concert, just going nuts. And then played 2 more songs. Like I said, ended with Sound of Silence, which was cool because he actually cut the monitor for that. And it was just him on only in a spotlight, just playing the guitar by himself, singing the song.
Tension horror.
Yeah. that was the way to end it, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. But he'll be in Pittsburgh on Monday. And I recommend anybody that is a fan of music, especially like really good music, to go check it out, because he's still got it and he's not going to be touring anymore. And after Pittsburgh, he does a couple shows in New York and he's done.
Now, is Art Garfunkel dead?
No, he's not dead. They just don't get along at all.
Oh, I just assumed he was dead.
No, he's still kicking. Still has the voice of an angel.
Well, does he tour? When's his farewell tour?
I think he does like little theater gigs. Art Garfunkel didn't have the success that Paul Simon did post breakup.
Yeah.
I mean, Simon was the writer.
I wonder, okay, those guys are ancient. And they've been touring for a long time. That's how those guys really make their money. And they sold a lot of albums. I wonder what he's worth. You know what I mean? I wonder what what he's worth.
It's got to be obscene at this point.
You think? I mean, if he's still, what size? That was like a stadium.
It was an arena. That's a 30,000 seater.
Like where the Heat play.
Panthers.
Ah, okay.
That's where the Panthers play. I guess actually that's more of like a 15,000 seat. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe it's still it's an arena.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Huh. It's not just a couple hundred people.
No.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Got any other concerts you're going to go to?
Well, I would like to go to the Phil Collins concert on October 5th, but Leah doesn't seem to be as into Phil Collins as I am. I think that would be a good show. I mean, he's pretty big time.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big name. There will be a lot of old heads there too.
Yeah. And, it's good to go somewhere and feel young. You could do that at a Phil Collins show.
Yeah. You could be 50 and feel young, it sounds like.
Be there, go play some Genesis. Woo!
What was that at the Catalina Wine Mixer? And they're like, we only play Billy Joel or 1980s Billy Joel.
Yeah. We only play Uptown Girl and Up Billy Joel.
Yeah.
Oh my. Right now we're just kind of killing time till we get to the interview. I sent the invite, but I am technically a minute early. So
okay. It looks like he's joined our Google Hangouts thing here. So
the chat. Yeah, I never had the chat open, which I should in case people want to, watch us live and join in.
Yeah. I don't know how any of this stuff works.
Yeah, since I always start the thing, I don't think I don't get the same view as you guys. So
yeah,
I get the view.
Yeah, you're the administrator,
right?
You're really important.
Real big guy there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of music, I mean, I don't know how long it'll take to get him in here, but we could touch on one other music topic since we're talking about it. Mac Miller, Pittsburgh rapper, died this past weekend.
Yeah. Didn't see that one coming.
No.
I also like the fact that a lot of the places that wrote about Mac Miller's death, the biggest thing they could say about him was Ariana Grande's ex.
Yeah. But here in Pittsburgh is a little different. I think people are pretty broken up about younger people. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, people were going nuts. I actually got a chance to photograph one of his concerts when he was down here in West Palm Beach. He played Sunfest, and I did some like freelance stuff for iHeartRadio. And dude rocked the house, man. He really put on a great show, and the crowd was really into it. He had one of the bigger crowds that I've seen there. So yeah, he was a good performer.
You didn't get a chance to meet him, huh?
No. You don't get those chances. That's when I did Ed Sheeran's concert, like these little teeny boppers were handing me stuff to give Ed. Give this to Ed. I'm like, I'm not gonna meet him.
They're like their training bras and shit.
Weird. Dude, that's the closest that I will ever get to a Beatles moment is the time I was in the photo pit for Ed Sheeran.
Wow.
Dude, it just destroyed your eardrums.
I was just gonna say that would have to give you the worst migraine of all time.
It was he was awesome, but that was awful.
You love Ed Sheeran.
Dude, he's great. He's a very talented guy.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy too.
Yeah.
Just I've heard some interviews with him. I'm not like a big fan of him or anything, but he seems like he's a good guy. That's what a lot of people said about Mac Miller though too. They said he was a really good guy. So yeah, it's a shame people all drugged up.
Yeah. Stay off the drugs, man. It'll get you.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as music goes, we have Paul Simon concert, Paul McCartney jerking off all over John Lennon's face, and Mac Miller died. We're hitting all meets and bounds right there.
Yeah. Dude, like there was like maybe explosion's not the right word to use about Paul McCartney right now, but there was like an explosion on YouTube of like Paul McCartney interviews and stuff, and I don't know what the deal is. I think he's coming out with a new album, which, yeah, I guess. I don't know.
I saw him in concert.
Did you?
Yeah, FedEx Field.
which I would still love to see him in concert.
He's really good in concert.
Yeah, I've seen video of his concerts, which are pretty
his old ass rocks for like 3 hours.
I know. Like,
that's impressive.
That's another thing about Paul Simon. Like, when he came out and he was kind of getting through America and it didn't sound that good. And it was like, but you know what? I was happy that you go to a lot of these pop shows now. That shit's all like pre-taped.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's basically a dance. Yeah. You're watching a dance routine.
Exactly. So, I mean, those old heads,
they still bring it.
But that's their voice. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I saw Paul McCartney, it was a long time ago now, but his voice wasn't gone. He was sounding good. And he played everything, you know, like all the big hits.
Oh yeah. He understands that people were there because he's a Beatle.
Yeah, like maybe a couple months later, he played Pittsburgh. I didn't go. But a guy I work with went. And he came into work the following Monday. He's like, check this out. Dude had pictures. He got backstage. His, like, I don't know, some person he knew, some woman, some old aunt or something, took him backstage and they hung out with Paul McCartney.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah,
he jerked off all over him, he said.
He invited him, hey, why don't you come on over and like just sit in the corner and we'll each have a wank and
yeah, let's touch our bits a bit.
Yeah, we'll just play with our bits, you know, we'll just have some fun with it.
Your accent's pretty bad too. Yours is better than mine, but still pretty bad.
For some reason this gentleman is not getting our invites. So let me try to send another one. Yeah, it's hard to do a British accent when you're American, I hear. And apparently I tell you one thing that I've noticed is I have a really hard time doing any of the voices with the headphones on. Once I hear it, it throws me off.
Yeah, I tell you what, I can't really. I think it's funny to me. No one else thinks it's funny, and no one else thinks they're good. But like whenever I hear things, and then if I'm in the mood to like try to imitate, I think I do a pretty at least funny job doing it.
Right.
But coming up with it, like someone said, speak like you're Australian, or I mean, I have nothing, you know. So.
Oh, breaking news. Cynthia Nixon loses her gubernatorial race to Cuomo.
Oh, that was on my list. My title for it was Cuomo versus Ugly Lady from Sex and the City. Election got underway today. So she lost.
Your friend.
What was the percentages?
I don't know. That was the Hollywood Reporter, which doesn't really cover anything Hollywood anymore. It just.
I guess she's kind of Hollywood.
Yeah, that's true.
But, I mean, I don't know. Cuomo's bad enough. I mean, if you had her and that girl from your Alexandria, if you had both those two people running shit around there.
Did you see her gangster rap cover?
I saw her dancing to rap music. To rap music. With a bunch of black women. It was the most awkward thing ever. That was just this week.
Dude, something's happening to her physical appearance where she is just getting weirder and uglier looking as time goes on.
Well,
there's something about getting into the Democrat politics that just it turns you.
I think it's just more of you're seeing more of her, and you know, you're not seeing what, you know, when someone's running a campaign, what people typically are seeing of them is what the campaign people want you to see of them. Now she's getting out there and you're starting to see her.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't ever really think she was that great looking. I mean, she's all right, but she just is like weirder than ever now. She just seems weird. So, but she's gonna end up being elected.
Oh yeah. No, there's no way a Republican could win in that district.
No, not a chance in hell.
Send on Facebook. I can't get you on Facebook.
Ooh.
Hold on. We've never done the interview mid show. We always pre-record the interviews or have them on like before we actually go live. So
waiting in the whims.
Yeah. So we tried to do something a little different. Let me fire up Facebook, which
I wonder if we can get him on some, and he's just audio even.
Yeah, that's.
You'll probably be.
I don't understand why my stuff wasn't going through.
Does he have? Obviously, it's in Hangouts, so he has Google.
Right.
And email or my.
Yeah, I mean he broadcasts on Google Hangout. This little section right here. Consider this bonus YouTube material because it's going to disappear when I put the audio out.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The magic of editing. So, you can copy and paste the link. Okay. Motherfucker.
Now, do you use a mouse?
Yes.
Me too. I'm on a laptop here, but I don't like using a touchpad.
I see.
You got it? You got them figured out?
Yeah.
I shouldn't leave, right?
No.
I'm being funny. Not that fun. Not that funny though. Wonder if Quaid made it to Amish country. I mean, even though he left Amish country to go to Amish country.
Yeah. Yeah, he I haven't heard from him, although he did say he liked the topic idea. Did you see the topic idea?
I don't know. I'd have to look. I don't remember. Sometimes those pop up and I'm like doing stuff.
Yeah.
And then I forget to go back. So then on Monday night, I'm like, hey, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You guys already done? You guys have it planned already?
Yeah, that I'm thinking. Well, it's not that it's planned already. Obviously, we like the agreement there. There we go.
There we go.
Hi, how you doing?
All right. Hey, Nick. Thank y'all for having me on here. Sorry about the technical issues there.
Oh, not a problem. This is Tom Ritchie. Welcome to the show. You are the owner of a YouTube channel that has over 100,000 followers or subscribers, which is pretty amazing.
I don't know how many of them are actually watching, but yeah, it's been a long a long walk over the last like 6 years, but yeah, I mean it is kind of one of those things. It's like, wow, okay, that actually happened.
Yeah, you really built something pretty impressive there. What gave you the idea to take your teaching lessons online like that? Because you are a teacher, which
Yes. And what's interesting about that, people ask me this question a lot, and I was just kind of bored, partly, and then partly perhaps a bit frustrated sometimes, like when you teach school and there will be a student that comes up to you, they miss class, and they just come up to you after class and they're like, what did I miss?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, what am I supposed to tell you in 30 seconds or less? And so I thought at the time, and this is about 2012, I thought, I'll just put all my lectures online. And then now it's 2018 and I've only got a fraction of my lectures online. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into that. than, you think originally, because, if I were just to set up a camera in a classroom and record myself having class, nobody wants to watch that. And then you got all kinds of privacy issues and stuff. So, it's, there's a lot that goes into it, but, but that was really one of those things. I was just thinking about putting some videos online primarily for my own students, and then other people started watching them.
Yeah.
And so that it kind of grew from there. Just like, you've got your podcast going, and, when you stick with something for long enough, eventually, in a connected world like this with billions of people, some people are going to be into what you're doing.
Yeah. And I was actually, I am one of those people that am into what you're doing. I think the videos are great. I like the fact that they're basically like 5 to 20-minute videos that you could go and check out something that maybe, a topic in history that you don't have to, it's not like a full lecture where you could get, caught up on it, which I think is great. The founders, a lot of the stuff you did on the founders, I watched, I'd say 2 years ago, because I know I got in touch with you a year ago about trying to get you on here when I was doing this as a college project.
Yeah.
Speaking of the founders and whatnot, what do you think they would think of today's situation?
That's interesting. And I do want to take another look at the founders sometime, because a lot of those are very old videos. Some of them may be re-recorded, but, it's a very important part of our history. Now, one thing that I find interesting is, when people talk about the founders, it's like the average American kind of thinks in terms of this sort of monolithic sort of thing. And, a lot of times people want to act like, I think that it's just part of our own, narcissism and, arrogance. Just, people want to think that we're living in unprecedented times. And really, if we want to compare this to something, we need to compare it to Nazi Germany, or we need to compare it to, something, like that. But when we look back at the back and forth between, Jefferson and, Hamilton and their parties, a lot of times I like to point out in Jefferson's second inaugural address. Now, of course, Jefferson was much more eloquent than President Trump, as we would expect. But essentially, I mean, when you really look at it, when he says that the artillery of the press has been leveled against us, I mean, that's the language that he uses. The artillery of the press, like the press has pointed a cannon at us and is shooting. And he's saying that the stuff that they're saying is not true. And he said that, what, I'm not going to take any action because, that was the Alien Sedition Acts, and I'm not into that kind of stuff. But he did say that certainly there may be laws in some of the states that could be used to prosecute these, these people who are putting out misinformation. And so the whole idea, I just think when, it's just like President Trump says, oh, the press is the enemy of the people. It's like, and then the Senate passes a resolution, oh, the press is not the enemy of the people. How dare you say that? Da, da, da. Nobody's ever said that before. And, you look back at George H.W. Bush in 1992, there's a clip, that I don't know where I'd find it, but I remember seeing it. Y'all are a little younger than me, I guess. I'm 38. But in
not that much younger.
So in 1992, George H.W. Bush held up this bumper sticker. And what's funny is, like, my parents, actually had this sticker, is why I remember it. But it said, annoy the media, re-elect Bush. Now, and it's a little bit more tongue in cheek, but the whole idea of a president, declaring war on the media is not new. I mean, we can see on YouTube all kinds of things where, I mean, if you put together the clips where, the amount of times that President Obama questioned the credibility of Fox News, I mean, I feel like in a free society, the press is free to hit at those in authority, and those in authority are free to hit back rhetorically. Now, when you use your authority in order, when we think about the Alien and Sedition Acts, where, it was actually, we see people being prosecuted and thrown in jail for opposing the administration, I think at that point we have a problem. But just for, someone in power to say that, I think that this media outlet is printing things or broadcasting things that are false, it's part of our discourse because, you can go to, CNN and you can judge for yourself, which I tell you what, one thing that this hurricane has done, I was at the gym a little earlier and they've got all the news all there. I try to stay away from cable news, but sometimes I can't avoid it. But, I looked and I saw CNN's talking about the hurricane. It's like, Hurricane Florence actually got CNN to talk about something besides Donald Trump. I was like, wow. I mean, that's like very impressive because it's always Trump, 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 like 24/7. And, but the thing is, I think that the value of studying history is realizing that we are not living in unique times. We may live in interesting times, and certainly the political culture right now is more interesting than it was, when I was growing up and, but interesting, not necessarily in a good way. But I think that when people act like, this is, fascism or something like that, this is American, that it's American. I think that's part of having a free press is if the president or anybody in authority weren't allowed to respond and weren't allowed to attack back, then, you don't have a discourse. And I think that people can decide for themselves, just fine who's telling the truth, at least as they see it.
Yeah, I agree. And, like they always say, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. What would you say that
I say that a lot, and I really like that one because I tell people history doesn't repeat itself. Come on.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean there are similarities that you see. What would you say like this day and age right now compares to in American history?
It's interesting because, I didn't realize what the topic was until a little bit ago, but it's interesting to look at this. And I think that, and as much as I don't like to say this, that I really don't see any evidence that the United States is not in a state of decline, that we see, when we think about like the decline of, the Roman Empire, the British Empire. I think that the United States right now is having to deal with now. It's not, Rome was neither built nor burnt in a day. I don't think that I don't think that we're going to see a time where we've still got more aircraft carriers than the rest of the world combined. Okay. So let's not like, put this out of proportion. But I think that when you look at, the empire that the United States has put together, and ultimately all empires are unsustainable. Like you're just not, when you read, I believe this is in, in Gibbon where he's writing of immoderate greatness. It's like the Romans achieved this immoderate greatness, and there's always going to be some kind of regression toward the mean. And I think that now I'd love to be wrong. I'd love for my grandchildren, my non-existent grandchildren, my daughter's like 8, so hopefully that'll be a while, that I'm hoping that they grow up in a country that is, still very, prosperous and powerful. But I think that, we are having to deal with, this idea of, this, well, and then again, there are some people that might say that we're declining, but then other people that say, well, we weren't that great to begin with because of this, this, and this. So, who knows really? But I think that when you look at, at that sort of thing, but also I think that when you look at periods of political polarization, because we've had some periods where, you've had presidential candidates that really aren't that radically, different from each other. When you had George H.W. Bush running against Bill Clinton, a moderate Republican versus a moderate Democrat, and we're not living in that kind of time right now. And, I think that it's important to realize that there have been other times, I think that period of the early national American, and I think that's something that we need to think about, that when you think about, Jefferson and Hamilton, really going at it and trying to figure out, what is America? Because when Jefferson thought about America and Hamilton thought about America, these are two different, competing visions. And, we see that right now, I think that there is certainly a lot of discussion about, what is the idea of America? And are we really even at a point now? I think most Americans, agree with certain ideas, but with the polarization, it's very difficult to see, common ground, and very difficult for people to, do something without resorting to just outright name calling.
Yeah.
So, I think that early national period is worthy of studying, especially like when you see that Jeffersonian newspaper that called called John Adams hermaphroditic, and, that he's bald and ugly and old and toothless and all this, that this is not new. And for me, one of the soapboxes I've been on lately is, this whole, this Confederate monument that they pulled down at Chapel Hill. It's just studying history, I think, is supposed to be something that actually gives us perspective and makes us a little more like rational and refined. Whereas lately it seems like history is being, is being weaponized, by people on both sides. I mean, those people that were, that had that rally last year in Charlottesville at the Robert E. Lee Monument. It's like, Richard Spencer doesn't give a darn about Robert E. Lee, and certainly Robert E. Lee is somebody that was not a radical. This guy was really a political moderate of his time, but he's being appropriated by people who want to use him as a symbol for a sort of movement that I think if he were to be sat down and they were explained like, hey, these people like have a really sort of radical way of looking at things, the spirit of that wouldn't have gone along there. But I look forward to a time, hopefully, when we can get back to like looking at history as something that evokes wonder and enjoyment, rather than what can I do here to find something that I can use to like weaponize and to rile people up? Because that's really that's what sells, whether it's history or news or politics or whatever. It's just whatever you can do to rile people up today, that'll get you. And I think that really, when you think about the 1790s, there was certainly a lot of that, like when Jefferson, that's the other thing, when Jefferson and Madison in their newspaper, and Madison was doing this too. I mean, somebody who was, one of our key founding fathers, Madison wrote this dialogue between the Republican and the anti-Republican, so it's not just, you don't even call the other party by their name. Jefferson called the Federalist monocrats, that these people are trying to set up an American monarchy. And the thing is that, the Hamiltonians are calling the Jeffersonians, Jacobins, that they're basically going to bring guillotines in here. And so, we don't, I think that time is, may need to do a, little video on this special coming out of here. I appreciate you making me think on there. But yeah, I think that the 1790s are a period that certainly warrants further study for people who are looking to understand what we're going through today, and to understand that, first of all, it's not unique. And second of all, it's not going to turn into Hitler. I think that conservatives are lucky that like Twitter wasn't a big thing in 2009, because a lot of the stuff that conservatives were saying about Obama, during that, whole Glenn Beck sort of thing, it was like, oh, well, Obama's trying to bring communism into the United States. And now, Trump is trying to bring, a fascist dictatorship and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, come on, people, let's get a little more rational.
So who do you think won? Go ahead, Adam.
I was just going to say, basically, they just use hot button words.
Getting some feedback here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that they just use hot button words from history instead of actually knowing what happened in history.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what, really, I was just doing a broadcast with, a gentleman at the Cato Institute coming from a libertarian perspective. And, he was talking about how, just the way that we're teaching history, and it's really, our culture is in sound bites. When you look at the history of like, broadcast news, where in the 60s and 70s, you would actually see like maybe a full minute of the president's speech, or more than that. And now 15 seconds or less, 280 characters or less. And people want to know things. They want to be certain, and they want to be certain with as little evidence as possible. you know, and that's, you know, to me, the adventure of history is reveling in the complexity of it, and not like, hey, look, I've got this one document here and that proves I'm right. And that's really, you know, it's become about being right and finding something to back up whatever, you know, whatever it is you thought already before you even looked at it.
Yeah. So it's been, you know, 230 years. Who won, Jefferson or Hamilton?
You know, that is a good question. Now, to some extent, you know, you might say neither. Now, what I say is that, you know, Jefferson thought about, you know, I'd probably lean a little more toward Hamilton. Now, the other thing, though, is that the people who are all like about this Hamilton musical, if they actually understood the policies he advocated, you know, it's like there's somebody that's like, oh, you know, I love Bernie Sanders, and oh, give me some of that Hamilton musical. And, you know, Hamilton was pretty much like the anti-Bernie Sanders, you know, because I mean, this guy, I mean, it's like, the United States is a great nation because of how powerful it is. Whereas for Jefferson, the United States, our greatness is in how free we are. And I would say that the United States, when we, you know, we love to think about ourselves as a free country, but by any objective measurement, like, I mean, is there anybody who seriously thinks, I mean, you know, I mean, has an informed, you know, opinion and thinks like the United States is the freest country in the world, you know, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not convinced. I mean, I think that there are other countries where, you know, now, of course, I think that we do have the First Amendment, which is something that, you know, other countries are missing. You know, the guarantee.
The second.
That we, and the Second Amendment. Yeah, I mean, that's something that, you know, when now when I'm in the Netherlands, I don't feel like I need to carry anything around or anything like that. I don't feel unprotected. But at the same time, in the Netherlands, if somebody breaks into your house, and now you can only have a pistol if you're a target shooter and it's in a safe, but if somebody broke into my house, then, you know, I can't, if I go to the safe and I grab my pistol and I shoot that person, then I mean, I've committed a crime. So in the United States, you know, that's a bit, you know, a bit different. I mean, and even the use of force against an intruder, you know, you have to be responsible for not having used more force than necessary. So, you know, I do think in some cases, you know, when we think about property rights and stuff like that, and the, you know, and some of the protections that we have, certainly, but, you know, I do think that, you know, there are some countries that, you know, I mean, their economies are less regulated than ours. They, you know, people are able to do things that, you know, you can't do in, you know, in our country. But, you know, I think to call us unfree would be, you know, would be ridiculous. So I think that that Jeffersonian legacy is still there. And when you take out like the 10% of the population on the you know, just the people who have the loudest voices on each side, that most people do value civil discourse, and they also value letting everybody express themselves no matter what, you know. And of course, what we're starting to see is, you know, what they're able to do in other countries through like hate speech laws. In the United States, it's being done without those laws, that they just, well, now we'll just ban this person from Twitter if corporate America doesn't like what they're saying. So yeah, go ahead.
Actually, what is your view on that? Like when you got the deplatforming of, you know, certain voices, and you also got banks that are refusing to lend money to people that make certain guns. Do you see a threat on our rights through corporations? And is there anything a free society could do to prevent that?
Now, personally, I do. Now, you know, we can get into a technical discussion of, you know, oh, well, that doesn't actually violate the First Amendment because it's not the government doing it. But at the same time, when you think about that, you know, Twitter has become a public forum. You know, this is where people speak. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, you know, these platforms, if these corporations get together and they decide that, you know what, we're going to, you know, we're going to shut, you know, Alex Jones or, you know, whoever else that they want to say, you know, this person doesn't fit into our guidelines, we're shutting them out. You know, we're taking this person off YouTube and that sort of thing. Well, at this, you know, this is really, it is going to impair the marketplace of ideas. And the whole idea of the, the classical liberal tradition that, on which the Bill of Rights rests, is, that, hey, you can say what you want. And we believe that, the bad, if it doesn't have any worth, it's not going to catch on. And so that's something that I think that when I think about my rights and my freedoms, I don't think about, oh, did the government technically do this, and was the letter of the Constitution violated, but was the spirit of the Constitution violated? And, to use the progressives like to say, oh, well, the founding fathers didn't understand a society that they didn't understand an AR-15 or something. And, I would say that they didn't understand a society where private corporations had, this ability to regulate speech and to say that, to direct people's thoughts. And I think that would have been something. Now, when you think about Jefferson versus Hamilton, I think Jefferson would be very concerned with large corporations. You think about Andrew Jackson and how, he declared war on central banking. He felt like the concentration of these financial institutions, was corrupt. Now, at the same time, I mean, you do have other ways to get out there. And I think when some of these people get banned, people start, because, I remember when I was, it was probably like 15 years ago when somebody brought over this VHS tape, and it was like Alex Jones's 9/11 documentary. And he's like, man, you've got to watch this. And I was just like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, whoa, oh my goodness, Building 7, Bush did 9/11. Now the thing is, you kind of get out of that a little, you realize hey, the odds of our government keeping a secret like that and pulling it off are so slim. But the thing is that, you see where in 2005, Alex Jones, it was like my friend brings over this tape and it's like, whoa. Now, it didn't make a permanent impression on me. It was a very well done documentary. I don't know. His work is, it's interesting to say the least. But my point being that lately, because of this, because of the social media censorship, it's almost like somebody like Alex Jones gets more visibility than he otherwise would get.
Well, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy where he said they're trying to shut him down and they're trying to shut him out, and all of a sudden they shut him down.
Yeah. And so then, it's like people are like, hey, I want to hear what this guy's saying if corporate America doesn't like it. And so it may be one of those things, kind of like when the senator stabbed Caesar and they thought we're preserving the Republic, and, not so much. So, but then again, somebody, we use social media, without, social media and YouTube, I wouldn't be, if I were teaching school 20 years ago, I would not be anybody of note. People wouldn't be asking. People wouldn't have podcasts, if you couldn't get on the radio, then, you can't do that. But then again, you think about, what happens when, they start saying, oh, your podcast doesn't fit these guidelines and da. And, one thing I point out, and I tell my students this and other people, and I'm not meaning to take a side here, but if you look at Facebook or Twitter, or some of those things where, where same-sex marriage was, declared legal across the United States by the Supreme Court. And, if you're on Facebook, you can say, oh, look, here's a special profile picture for you that you can post to support this. And then, on Twitter, we'll make a little, special emoji for it. Now, when you think about it, if someone is an advocate for, traditional marriage or something like that, you never see these corporations saying, here's a way that we're going to help you express yourself.
In fact, you can get suspended for hate speech.
Well, right. And so, it's like, if you're somebody who, thinks hey, if you want to say hashtag me too, hashtag time's up, it's like, oh, there's your special thing. But if you criticize that, you get no special thing. So, basically, and this is not to state an opinion on any of this stuff, but just to note how these corporations, they are, sometimes banning people, but sometimes subtly encouraging people to think a certain way. If you think this way, then you're rewarded. You get this little special thing. But if you think the other way, no. we're not going to validate that. So I think that having these concentrated like outlets where speech can be restricted, I don't know if you ever watched Mr. Betts' class. He does music video parodies like for history, and he did one recently on the Boston Tea Party, and he put on his Instagram a little story that shows where YouTube has said we're needing to review this because this may or may not meet our monetization guidelines, like it may not be advertiser friendly. So, we live in a society where Colin Kaepernick is advertiser friendly, but a video about the Boston Tea Party, that may not be advertiser friendly. So, I mean,
well,
it's crazy.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit last week on our show, and I think the big problem is everyone gets their news from social media. And then when you have a company controlling basically what you're seeing, then everyone over time, they're going to win, because over time they're pushing an ideology, and that's what everyone's going to see. And that's what's dangerous about it, in my opinion. I mean, it sounds like you're similar.
But I feel like we're almost, we're fast friends here. But one thing I can note now, where are y'all from?
I'm from Western Pennsylvania, around Pittsburgh.
I got you.
I'm from there, but I live in Florida now. So
okay, well, the thing is, I live in South Carolina. So back in 2015, when the Confederate flag was taken off of the State House grounds, and the Dukes of Hazzard was basically banned. You can't even buy the toy car anymore. And what happened in the short term. And I think this is something interesting when you see how authorities influence long-term thinking, because, I saw a lot of it was like you could see people like they have a big Confederate flag from behind their truck. Like, the Confederate flag had like this renaissance, in the wake of this. But what happens eventually is it dies down. So it's like, you have this short-term outrage when authorities say that this is not okay. And then eventually you see that it fades out. And, nothing wrong with something fading out. But when authorities, whether they are government authorities or corporate authorities, and they get to decide, like, we are going to make this, fade out, and they know there's going to be some backlash. There's going to be short-term backlash, but at the end of the day, we are going to be able to control how people think in the long term. Yeah. That's the scary part.
It is. Absolutely. So there was one more question I wanted to ask you before we let you go, and it deals with President Trump again. If you had to compare his presidency with any president in the past, who do you think he's most like?
I think that Andrew Jackson, those are the comparisons I think are best, in the sense that when Andrew Jackson was elected, now, of course, today we think, well, Jackson, you had Washington before him who'd been a general. But then, between Washington and Jackson, it was all politicians, so this political class had really kind of taken over. And so Jackson, this really rough, person that didn't, really, he'd made some money, but it was new money. He wasn't somebody from the traditional political class. And he appealed to a segment of people who had really not been active in politics and didn't feel like they were represented. And he said, those people are corrupt. He took on, different groups of people that were in power. And of course, at the same time, he was somebody who was hated by a lot of people, someone who was portrayed as, someone who was trying to bring down America, so those are the ones that I thought, I've got one of my most popular videos is where I, analyze the Trump-Hitler comparisons, but, the Trump-Jackson comparisons, some people wrote some really good articles on that at the time, and I don't really see a need to dispute that. Now, the thing is, what's going to be interesting is to be talking about this in, 30 years and seeing the impact, because, again, short term, and this is something that I would say is kind of interesting to think about, to your point, Adam, is like Trump is outraged. A lot of people are outraged in the short term, but is he going to be able to leave a legacy that is going to make a long-term impact on the country when everything, dies down? I think Mick Mulvaney, one of the president's budget advisors, said, I think that leaked out from a private meeting, that he said, when you take out people's opinion of the president, that a lot of the issues, and a lot of the things about, the economy and stuff like that, people actually get behind. And, you see where, as unpopular as, Trump is in a lot of circles, he certainly had some failures, but on a lot of levels, he has, thoroughly dismantled a lot of portions of President Obama's legacy and what that otherwise would have been. I mean, really what was, at stake in the 2016 election, I think more than anything was, is there going to be somebody who's going to protect President Obama's policy legacy, or somebody who's going to willfully undermine it? And so is all of this short-term outrage going to eventually lead to a long-term, consensus? And then what's next for, the right wing? Because really, it's like, I don't think that Donald Trump has replaced Ronald Reagan as a right wing icon, because he's very controversial, even with right of center people. I've said, is this going to be, are we going to see like a dominance of the left after this? Or, is Trump going to be kind of a John the Baptist figure for somebody who's really going to like bring together like a right of center consensus in the United States? That's what really fascinates me, is thinking about the future and what that might hold. Because certainly, Andrew Jackson, while very controversial, ended up leaving quite an impression. He's one of those presidents we still talk about quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's the Jefferson Jackson breakfast or whatever. Not
anymore. See, that's the thing. It used to be, they had these Jefferson Jackson dinners, but now the Democratic Party, is most of the states that have done those have renamed them, and it's only been in the last like 4 or 5 years. But yes, and that's always fascinating, just the whole concept of realignment and how that, has been so, that really, it's like Trump, the Republican, in a lot of ways. I mean, he's got the picture of Jackson in the Oval Office, not for no reason, right. And, he's really taken on this mantle, and, this voter, this white blue collar voter who used to be like the cornerstone of the Democratic coalition, is now gone over to the Republicans. So, I mean, I think right now we can't really predict the future, but that is one thing. I don't think we're living in unprecedented times, but I do believe that, the direction of the country has yet to be determined long term, that there are some things that are going to happen in the next decade that I think that are going to determine, the future of the United States for the next century.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, it's like one of those times that you see the pivot point where it goes into the next era, basically. Yeah. Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tom Richey, check him out on YouTube. He has a lot of great videos, and he doesn't just cover U.S. history. You go into world history. Heck, you go European. I mean, you break it all down.
Yeah, and a little bit of politics and philosophy here and there. And I'm actually, trying to kind of be a little more aggressive with things on my channel. So look for some new stuff, and y'all feel free to invite me back now that we're in touch. Like, yeah, this is enjoyable. I like, when I find myself in a nice, nice group of people, I always like to come back. So I'm assuming, is this a weekly thing that y'all do?
Yep, we do this weekly. Yep. We do this, and we do another show that's totally just purely comedy, basically.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, keep me posted. Let's maybe, give me a call sometime. Let's chat a little more about what you're doing. And I'd love to come back.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you back.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, Tom.
Good night.
Take care.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, that was Tom Richey. Like I said, check him out on YouTube. His videos are great. Like I said, they're short, they're digestible. It's stuff. If you're into history, you see he's got a personality. He doesn't make it boring like some history classes are. So, yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I really enjoy good history. And it's nice if you can get it in 10, 20, 25-minute segments. You know, like we always talk about, oh, geez, he's slipping my mind now, the podcast, Dan Carlin's podcast.
Yes.
Okay, Dan Carlin's podcast is a lot like a Netflix series because you have to commit some serious time to it. Because, I mean, if you listen to the war, I think it was the War of Wars or whatever it was about World War One.
Yes.
I mean, I listened to the whole thing. I love it. But it was probably over 30 hours of content.
Absolutely. It was
going into detail.
6 episodes, and they're like 6 hours long each episode.
Yeah, I mean, I love that because I'm driving around a lot in my car. So I just play it in the car. People always ask me, like, if you meet someone new, especially if you're in the dating world, they're like, what kind of music do you listen to? I'm like, well, I don't. I mean, I do, but I don't. You know, I listen to the most boring stuff. I mean, most people. Not a good pickup line. Yeah, I'm into EDM. Yeah, well, I'm into history podcasts. But really,
30 hours of World War One. You should check it out. It's riveting.
Yeah,
but no, that was crazy.
Yeah, him going into a comparison of Trump and like Adolf Hitler would be very interesting. Just to flush out what all, like I said, is hot button words people throw out there, and then whatever side it's on, they run with it, and then they start barking those words without really knowing the meaning of what it means to be a fascist or what it means to be this or that. Yeah. And yeah, I'll have to check that one out for sure. But I do love a good history lesson, especially if you make it entertaining.
Yeah,
you can see he's an entertaining guy.
Yep. All right, finally, let's hit the wire.
Yeah.
Getting a late start on it today, but that's fine. We got a little bit of things to cover, don't we?
Yeah, we'll breeze through it a little bit, but I mean, I guess we'll start off, since we're talking about presidents, we'll start off with the former President Obama. He's been hitting the campaign trail for Democrats who are up for election. And he got into a little bit of I guess it depends on how you look at it. If you're on the right, he got himself into a little bit of an issue with basically calling Benghazi a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Did you see this whole tweet thing with Chris Peranto?
Yeah, he said, oh yeah, it was a conspiracy theory. Like, it was basically like while we waited for...
Yeah, well, I could read the tweet. It's a pretty good one. So essentially what happened was Obama was speaking. He said that, the whole Benghazi thing was just a conspiracy theory, Alex Jones type shit. And Chris Pronto, he's a former Army Ranger. He was actually a government security contractor at the time. And he helped rescue 20 people during the whole event. And he was there. And he said, well, when he was on Fox News, he did say that he wanted to choke the president when he heard him say that, just because of how insensitive it was to the people who were actually there. But he did put out a tweet, I think initially, that said, Benghazi is a conspiracy theory at Barack Obama, ? How about we do this? Let's put your cowardly ass on top of a roof with 6 of your buddies. We'll shoot RPGs and AK-47s at you while terrorists lob 81mm mortars, killing 2 of your buddies, all while waiting for U.S. support that was never sent. And then it was the middle finger emoji, pound scum. I mean, so obviously that's a pretty... Yeah, but he got suspended for Twitter for it.
Of course he did.
Yeah, so... I didn't really hear Obama didn't respond to him, as far as I know. I mean, I don't think he responded to that.
None of them ever stepped to the plate in response to anything of where they're being criticized, where they have to answer questions to
answer for some of the things they say at some point. Yeah. Well, he did have
people they let die.
Yeah, so he didn't respond to Chris Pronto's, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but his tweet. But I did see a tweet, and it was from Barack Obama, and it said, I'm not sure if you saw this one. Maybe I sent you, maybe I didn't. It said, "Call my face a poo-poo platter because I'm eating Michelle's doo-doo batter." I'm not sure if that was real or not, but it was followed up with a tweet by him saying, "How do I delete a tweet?"
What the hell was that on?
That was on a meme.
That's so funny.
That was on an Instagram meme. I think it was kind of old, but with this new Twitter stuff, with the new controversy with this guy, it's been going around a lot. I mean, I read that and I'm like, die laughing.
Yeah.
It's so immature of me. It's like the 8th grade. 8th grade comedy. I love it.
That's the thing.
But
guys never get out of the 8th grade comedy realm.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, when we're speaking of elections, we did touch a little bit on Cuomo versus Cynthia Nixon, the election that's going on for governor of New York, correct?
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Cynthia Nixon, she's the redheaded lady from Sex and the City. She's like the unattractive friend. Yeah. I mean, in my thing, it has Cuomo versus ugly lady from Sex and the City. But we got breaking news right during the show that Cuomo actually won. And according to, it'll be curious tomorrow. Usually elections, you don't get final numbers really accurately until the next day. But I'd be curious how close it was. Because, I mean, when you look at some of the people who are running now and who are winning or who are putting pressure on these established candidates, it is people, I don't want to say just like her, but like that Alexandria and all these other people, they're putting pressure on really established politicians.
Yeah.
So,
and they're all batshit crazy and don't know what the fuck they're talking about, which is great.
I know. It looks really bad. I wonder if that Alexandria will debate the Republican, whoever it might be. If it was me, if I were her, I'd be like, nah, I don't want to do a debate because she won. Why risk it? Because the guy, no matter how unliked he is, he's going to sound better than her.
Yeah, well, because his points will actually make sense and he'll be able to say, like, he won't be saying, like, we're going to pay for everything that you want.
Yeah.
Then, like, he's not going to be asked, like, how much is that going to cost? Because he's not saying that.
Yeah, well, speaking of people that want socialism, Jim Carrey was on Bill Maher's show.
Yeah,
and
he's living the socialist dream right now.
Yeah, by the way, well, he basically said we have to say yes to socialism was the big takeaway from it. He said a lot of other things, but I mean, this is being said by someone who's a multi-millionaire.
Yeah,
it's kind of a joke.
Yeah. He's only gotten paid at the height of his career $20 million a movie, but he wants you to give up your money.
Yeah,
around a little bit.
I saw where he tweeted something, someone replied to it, and the guy who replied said, "Hey Jim, if that's the way you feel, how about both of us put our bank accounts together and we split it 50-50?
Yeah,
because I mean,
you know what? I'll throw in on that. We'll do it.
Yeah, me too. If that's what you call socialism and that's what you want to do, I'm in.
I'm in. Absolutely. He was on Bill Maher. He also was showing some of his paintings, which, stick to acting. My advice. Not the best painter. He's not Picasso, but he also had this comment to say, which I just find, what world are these people living in?
A president who started out when the country was together and had a wonderful leader, and he is tearing us limb from limb. Well, destroying everything.
Okay. Basically, what he said was, under Obama, the country was together.
Yeah.
What do these people? I don't know. Look outside.
Yeah, but Nick, look, the Ferguson thing happened under Trump. Oh wait, no, it didn't. It happened under Obama. Okay. There's all the Baltimore thing happened under Trump, though. Oh wait, no, it didn't. It happened under.
That was under Obama.
Oh wait,
Benghazi was Trump. No,
that was Damn it,
that was pretty divisive.
It was.
So was the police acted stupidly. That was under Bush. No, that was like the first thing Obama did.
Yeah. So you can say whatever you want. These Hollywood people brought them all together. But the rest of the country, Obama did more damage to race relations than ever before, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to say ever before, like in the civil rights era, but I'm saying since the civil rights era, I think that it has evolved to the point where people got along a lot better. I think, if anything, Trump and Kanye are going to bring us back. I think that's the ticket.
I tell you what, they can't do more damage than Barack Obama did.
Yeah. But
he was horrible.
There still are people, obviously, African-American people who feel divided, like Snoop Dogg. And he had that. He put out a clip. It was
pulled that.
Yeah, I should have. I didn't think about it until right now. We're thinking about celebrities and how jaded they are, how out of touch they are with the rest of us common folk. But it's basically a UFC fight. I think Tyron Woodley was fighting some white guy. I don't even know who it was, honestly. I don't know any of those UFC guys. I know Tyron Woodley, but Tyron Woodley's African-American. He had the guy down, and he was putting the screws to him pretty good, beating him up pretty good. And Snoop's in the background. Like, I mean, if it was opposite, if Snoop was white and he was saying it to a white guy being a black guy, it would be the most racist thing any celebrity has ever seen.
Horrible. It really was.
Yeah. And he's screaming, "Fuck Trump," and do it to, basically
it was bitch and everything else.
Yeah. That kind of stuff is that's divisive.
Right.
I mean, you don't hear a white celebrity who supports Donald Trump ever say anything like that about African American.
They wouldn't be accepted either because it's horrible shit.
Yeah. It's only accepted on the left.
Right.
Also,
if you want to attack men, that's another thing that is widely accepted on the left. Serena Williams, boy, she had some divisive behavior over the weekend.
Yeah,
what is this at the U.S. Open?
Well, here, I'll set this up a little bit for people who aren't aware of what happened. So Serena Williams is playing in the finals of the U.S. Open, which is like one of the big majors for tennis. And so she's playing in the finals. She's playing against a Japanese woman. And
half black, half Japanese woman.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say she was very dark. But so essentially this woman has yet to win a major. And she even said in the press conference after, she said has been to play for a major against Serena Williams. And it was kind of like, this was my dream until this basically happened.
Yeah.
Good play.
I have never cheated in my life.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We didn't even set up why she's screaming that.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, the umpire looked over and saw Serena Williams' coach giving Serena Williams coaching signals, which is not allowed. No. So he docked her a point.
Well, one thing about coaching signals, and it's not like, hey, throw the left hook type of stuff. It's more of like when he notices that the opposing person is serving a certain way or serving to one side or the other. If you give a signal, it's kind of like playing euchre with someone and you're cheating and you're giving them signals like with your finger up to your face, or like I got the the left bar, I got the right bar, I got both bars. Like it's basically that, like that type of stuff. So it's a competitive advantage. It's not just I mean, they call it coaching, but it is cheating. So anyways, play the clip.
I have a daughter and I stand what's right for her, and I've never cheated. And you owe me an apology.
SpongeBob. A few hours later.
She goes on. She gets docked a point for this, and she continues to call the guy a thief. Mm-hmm. So then he takes a game from her.
Yeah,
because
she was losing. She lost the first set, and it was probably still pretty close in the second set whenever this happened. But
no, she was getting her ass kicked.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, she was not in the competition. Like basically,
she was gonna lose.
She was gonna lose. None of this even mattered. The only reason why it matters is because Serena Williams has to keep her name in the news, and she doesn't want people to believe that she could ever lose at tennis. So she continued to berate the umpire. So let's get the SpongeBob intro. And
moments later.
That's not right. This is not fair. This has happened to me too many times. This is not fair. This is not fair. But to give me a point to lose a game for what we're saying, that is not fair.
And that costs her a game penalty.
Say it. Say you're sorry. Well, then don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. You stole a point from me. You're a thief too.
Yeah, calling him a thief was really what put it over.
So, anyways, so she lost, but the crowd, you know, it's a very pro Serena crowd. I mean, in the tennis world, and women's tennis especially, at least in America, they love Serena, and you know they're cheering for her when she's screaming. They're booing the ref. They're making a scene, especially when the match is finally over and the other girl wins. And essentially, you know, they're destroying this girl's moment. Just think about that. You work your entire life to win a major in something, or win or do something. And that moment when you finally reach your pinnacle, it gets stolen away by someone acting like a complete fucking baby after they got caught cheating, essentially.
Well, the most embarrassing part is the media was too willing to just be like, to run to Serena and push her narrative. They didn't even interview
sexism.
Yeah, until second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they the media continued to push the, you know, this is sexism narrative.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because Anna isn't a woman.
Yeah. Well, they're saying because he's a man and he's being sexist against her, and he should take a game off the other woman too because she's a woman too, and that would only be fair. But he has done. He's actually even done almost the exact same thing to Nadal. There was a list, like a long list of men that he's done this to, because his job is to be the ref. If you're doing something you're not doing, his job is to penalize you for it. And to call a guy a thief because you can't control yourself and you can't play by the rules is ridiculous. You know, she's part of that. And I thought it was funny because right before this all, she's part of the Kaepernick Nike campaign ad. I don't know if you're aware of that. So like, this just gets them even more attention. You know, look at us. We're poor people being, taken advantage. Yeah, we're oppressed. And it's like, you know what?
Money millionaires, shut up.
I know. It's just like so sickening. So, I mean, I guess I could go on and on about this stuff. But later in the week, the coach actually admitted to doing exactly what the ref said.
Yeah, I was coaching. I did it.
Yeah, I did it. Well, then maybe you should apologize to this guy.
Yeah.
Because you're trashing his life. You should apologize to the girl that you trashed her moment in the sun. Whatever. They'll never get it. And you know what's funny about this whole thing? Serena Williams, you know, the star of women's tennis, VADA, or whoever the doping agency who monitors them or whoever tests them randomly, goes to her house one day, this was a couple years ago, to do her random test. She literally hid under a bed, I think it was, called the police, and basically said that she was being robbed or something. Someone's trying to break in because she was hiding, like trying not to take that test so she wouldn't fail. I mean, you look at the guns on her and the legs. I mean, I don't doubt that she was on performance-enhancing stuff. I mean, Sharapova got popped for it, and she's nowhere near the size she is muscle-wise. She looks like a linebacker, like her build. I mean, she could play middle linebacker.
you know who couldn't play middle linebacker is David Hogg.
Yes.
The guns on that kid.
They're huge.
You got
22, son.
He's got the Red Riders.
I'm not even sure if he's got Red Riders. He's got like spit shooters, like a straw. You spit wad shooters.
The little big pens.
Yeah, he's like the kind of kid if he's wearing a tank top and you grab the string and say, or you grab his arm and start pulling. Oh, I was gonna pull that string off your shirt.
Dude, he's crossed the line for even Michael Moore.
Yeah, well,
take the microphone off of him at his like little film premiere up in Canada, because you know that's what you do is you go into foreign countries and trash America. That makes you cool, bro. Should I just go ahead and play the clip?
Yeah,
or you want
to well, yeah, no, I mean, basically, he's on stage with Michael Moore, and for whatever reason, and they're in Canada, by the way, because that's important to know. So go ahead.
All right, get ready for the douche chills of all douche chills.
I have a question for you guys. Who's ready to save America?
Ugh.
Who's ready to make America the country that we say it is on paper and make it the actual country that it wants to be?
Canada, by the
way. Yeah. Hey, I don't know what you're talking about, eh? I just want some flapjacks.
The most important thing to realize, however, is the problems that we face as a country. Whether it be water in Flint, Michigan, or the amount of mass incarceration of people of color that can't vote. In Florida, the amount of eligible African Americans that would otherwise be eligible to vote that can't because of a previous conviction is 21%. In Kentucky, it's 26%. Mississippi and Alabama, it's 15 to 16%. These are people of color that have been historically discriminated against and still are to this day and have their voting rights taken away.
No, they didn't get taken away. They lost them.
They're felons.
Yeah, they lost them committing felonies. You dumb shit.
I think Canadians can donate to political campaigns in the United States. They can't?
Yeah, this is where he tried to get a foreign country to influence our elections.
Vote here because...
Go ahead. Give the microphone to fucking...
learn from us.
Peter Griffin over there.
Don't let this happen here because we need to come to you guys if we stay on this track.
So that's what Michael Morse that's pretty much it. But that's when Michael Morse steps in, takes the mic off him, is like, oh yeah, you know, because everyone
I care today. But you know, no, never mind, they cut it. Go ahead.
Yeah. But basically he's asked them to donate to, and then everyone's like kind of laughs. Yeah. Because even the Canadians know that they can't do that. And then Michael Moore's like, oh shit, like we let this kid go a little too long. Goes over, grabs the mic. But
I mean, just shut up and go away. Look, I get it. He was in a traumatic event. Feel terrible for the kid, terrible for all the kids. That doesn't change the fact that he is a hateable human being.
Yeah, but he's an idiot too.
He's an idiot. He's hateable. He just needs to shut up and go away. We've had enough of David Hogg and his little band of merry men.
So everyone's sad, you know. Trump's in there. They're sad. And there's some other people who are sad about this. They were Google executives. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, that was another one we should add, but that's okay. I know we're running way long anyway, but essentially there was Google executives. I'm not sure what this was for. They were addressing people. Not sure if they were work people or if they were. It was something. It was like this. I don't know if you call it a roundtable discussion where there's a crowd and then they go through like I don't know. But essentially, this woman tells this story. She's a Google executive. And she said that she texted her friend who was at Hillary's election night party and said, "Are you doing okay?" And they responded, you know, like, "Everyone's leaving. We're not going to win." And this woman's telling this story, bursting into tears. It's like awesome. Not laughing, crying. Yeah. Oh, God. And then there was a lot of white male privilege stuff that was involved in this whole seminar, and that's kind of goes back to our point with Tom. Those people at Google are the ones dictating what we see in our Google searches. They're dictating how we communicate with one another, because that's where everyone goes, the internet. So they're controlling these things, and this is their unbiased opinion to literally break down in tears in public 2 years later about text that you sent to a friend about the election. I mean, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. And then Google comes out and says, yeah, well, we don't want to stop people from thinking they're, what they believe, which I agree with.
Unless
that doesn't influence anything. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You have people literally crying. You go up. They had a board meeting the next day after the election where people stood up. It was like Festivus. They had their airing of grievances. A guy stood up. He's like, "Oh, well, as a immigrant of refugees and whatever, I find this election to be extremely offensive."
Dude, it's like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
I mean, that is the scariest thing to me. And I expressed it with Tom. I said, their ability to control what we hear and see, because that's where everyone goes, the internet, social media. I mean, those people are controlling your news. And really your news is controlled by not the same people, but the same people with the same agendas.
Yep.
So it's scary because how do you ever know the truth? If you block everyone who speaks against you because you don't agree with them and you push an ideology, it's like, what's going to happen over the next 10 years? I mean,
a prime example is Jim Carrey saying, back when we had a president where we were all united under and everything was great.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a warm memory.
That's a memory that I didn't
just made up. Yeah.
Just pulled out of the air. This is what you believe now.
Yep, exactly. And so then Bill Maher's below the desk.
Yeah.
I love you, Jim.
Bill Maher, he pisses me off more often than not, but I'll give Bill Maher credit. He is a staunch supporter of the First Amendment, and he defends it relentlessly.
He should be,
which is great. So he's against all the bannings. He's against even in the spirit of the First Amendment, like as Tom said, he's against Twitter throwing Alex Jones off there, even though he considers Alex Jones to be a complete asshole.
Yeah,
he is a staunch defender of the First Amendment. So that I could at least. Bill Maher believes in what he stands for. He's a liberal guy, and he believes in actual liberty. So just on a lot of everything else.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. And I mean, obviously, as someone in the media, that has to be important. If you're in media and you're pushing for socialist ideology, I think because you have to understand that what you do, your freedom of expression and speech, doesn't go well with that type of government. It just doesn't. So it's kind of confusing sometimes where they're coming from. But speaking of other talk shows and other celebrities. Kind of celebrity, he's a celebrity. Elon Musk, he was on Joe Rogan's show, and first off, he talks about a lot of things that are hard to even comprehend.
Yeah,
because he's a smart guy who he's thought of things or he has seen things, and he talks about artificial intelligence, and you can tell he's a smart guy. He's not trying to offend anyone or take a political side on things. I think he's trying to express some of his concerns about certain things, but in the middle, and I think Joe baited him. I don't think it was really fair because it was like, and I like Joe Rogan a lot, but I don't think it's really, Elon is hanging out with the bull, he's like part of the cool kids for a little bit, and Joe, they're drinking some whiskey, which is fine. And, whenever he went on the show, Elon said, yeah, I promised I wouldn't swear I told my manager, whoever's here, that I wouldn't even swear on the show. Right. Well, then Joe, they're having some whiskey. That's fine. Well, then Joe pulls out a joint and starts smoking a joint. So a big blunt. Yeah. and Elon's like, what is that? Is that like tobacco? He didn't even have any idea at first. And Joe's like, whoa, it's, this is something Dave Chappelle or somebody showed me. And it's basically, and I think Elon thought it was tobacco and weed.
It was.
He didn't know.
It was a mixture of tobacco and weed.
Yeah, but I think but it's probably more weed, and it's basically rolled up in a cigar wrapper.
Right.
So Elon goes, he's promised he wouldn't swear, and he starts taking hits off of a joint. And I'm thinking, I saw the news, and my dad even said to me, my dad just watches regular news, and he knows who Elon Musk is, just because of companies he's involved with, and he's obviously in the news occasionally because he's like a very innovative guy. And he says, "What was that idiot doing on that show?" And he didn't remember his name, and I knew exactly who he was talking about. I was like, "You're talking about Elon Musk." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "What was that idiot Tesla, the guy from Tesla doing on?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, that looks bad." And the stock dropped like 18% the next day, which, like we've said about all these companies, they all drop and then they all work their way right back up.
Right.
So that stock is very volatile anyway. It pops up and down all the time.
I say good for him. Cut loose. Or with Joe Rogan. If I was on Joe Rogan's show, I would smoke weed with Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and you don't even smoke weed. I mean, neither do I. But yeah, I mean, I felt kind of bad listening to him because I felt like, I don't want to say peer pressure, because obviously he's trying to show that he can have a good time too.
Right.
But he says that he's not going to swear. And then he ends up smoking weed on a show. It's like, dude, okay, there's an 8-ball over there if you really want to get wild. But I mean, he's an adult.
Face? Like, let me see that vein.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, if there wasn't ramifications with shareholders and stock and stuff like that, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But there's a lot of people who have millions of dollars invested in them. So when they lose 17% in one day, it hurts.
Yeah,
if you lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in a day, it hurts, even though it comes back. But a lot of these guys have stop losses in, so it gets to a certain point, they take their loss and they cut their loss. I mean, a lot of them have to be really sick if they did that. But if they followed our trading rules, which is whenever you have awful news, and it's not like awful detrimental news to your business, but just detrimental news for the moment in the news.
Yeah,
it's gonna drop. You buy it when it hits the bottom. At the end of the next day, boom, you just made 20% of your money. Why aren't we millionaires?
Papa John's, Nike, Tesla.
Yeah,
it's a surefire system.
It is. I think that we need to get on one of those infomercials, and we need to sell a DVD set to a bunch of old people.
Wear the Riddler's jacket.
Yeah.
So you watch anything good?
Well, the NFL season started, so obviously we watched a lot of NFL football this week. Actually, I didn't really watch much because I was driving, and I listened to it on the radio. I listened to the Browns-Steelers game. So weird to have a tie in football, but I don't know. I kind of blame the weather, but when you have 6-7 turnovers in a game, I mean, they only had one. That just says that you're not taking care of the ball.
That's right.
In bad conditions, So Le'Veon Bell still not back with the team. James Conner filled in, did great. He had 190 yards from scrimmage, which is great. He was led the league in the yards from scrimmage, I think. So I say, Le'Veon Bell, you just sit out, save us the money.
Absolutely.
I'm fine with it. In other sports news, PGA star Dustin Johnson. He's splitting with Pauline Gretzky, so she's available. What? Yeah. He'll be doing rippies with John Daly again, He'll be back on the party scene. But I don't know. That's kind of wild. Gretzky's maybe his best shot ever was into his wife and to make Pauline, because she's so hot.
She is a 12 on a 10 scale.
What is has anyone ever had 2 hat tricks in one game? Because that's basically what he did that night.
That's for sure. Good on him. They don't call him the great one for nothing.
Yeah. You know what else I watched? And I saw it was on. I watched a little bit of it at DVR. I've seen it before, but I watched Alive, the movie Alive, where the soccer team crashes in the mountains and basically have to eat each other, and they're there forever.
Yeah.
And it just really makes you
hungry.
Well, it just really makes you think how tough you could have it, or how good we have it. You know what I mean? Things could be so bad. And those people kept hope, you know, and it's a pretty amazing story. I mean, it's terrible. They had to eat each other and a lot of people died. And if you've never seen it live, you should watch it because it's inspirational. So, and then I watched a little bit of Napoleon Dynamite, which also is very inspirational. When you're talking about winning elections, vote for Pedro.
Pedro was able to pull it out in the end.
Yeah, inspirational story for sure. Absolutely. But other than that, no, I haven't really watched much. I'm just getting myself ready. Triple G Canelo 2 Saturday. I mean,
looking forward to that. I'm heading down to. There's a restaurant right down the road. It's called the Wing House.
Okay.
It's called the Wing House. You think it'd be a nice family-friendly place? You go in there, and much to my chagrin, I guess, I went in there for lunch one day, and I got my work clothes on. I go in, I see the electricians that work for the area that I work at, and they just kind of give me a look. And the reason why is because
it's a gay bar. Gotcha.
The Wing House has waitresses that basically are wearing thongs and shirts that are like Hooters appropriate.
Now wait, what's the address of this place?
It's in walking distance from my house, so just go on down.
It's within walking distance from me right now, I think.
Yeah. So so I'm gonna go there.
Well, that'll be fun though. And you know what? I don't know how see, I have, and I know I'm gonna be watching with people. Sometimes I have a hard time watching things with people like this. Things that I'm really like even like the Super Bowl. Everyone gets together for the Super Bowl, and I always get together with my family to watch it. But like if the Steelers are in it, it's distracting with all those people around because there's a lot of people chatting. They're not even paying attention to the game, and I'm like hanging on every play. And I'm a lot like this for fights. Now I don't mind. I like watching it with other people. I watch it with Mike and Devin, and you know there will probably be some other people there. But like sometimes I feel like whatever like they said the last score in the first, they read the last score and it was 114. I wanted to just scream before they even said 114. You know, I knew it was a draw, and I wanted to just like punch a hole in the wall. So I don't know. I'm a little concerned about it, just because I'm always concerned about it.
Right.
Because I like the guy so much as a person and the way he's fought. You know, when 4 or 5 years ago when they first started talking about this, I mean, there's a reason they didn't fight. Because Triple G
was a scared little bitch.
Well, everyone was. No one wanted to fight him. I mean, legitimately, Triple G was basically the Mike Tyson of the middleweight division. And quite frankly, he's usually very nice to people, and he's very cordial with them, and he wins. And I at times, I feel like he does take it easy on guys to some degree, but there is such hatred, and Triple G feels so disrespected, like legitimately. I mean, it could be if it was Triple G 4 years ago, it may be Triple G. It may be the same thing. But, you know, I'm old. I get out of bed and I have aches and pains. I haven't been punched, and he's fought 400 amateur fights, 40, almost 40 professional fights. So I can just imagine, you know, your body starts to break down, you know. I hope it doesn't break down now, but God, I can't wait for this fight. Sorry, I'm just going on a rant, man.
I'm excited for it too. I'm looking forward to some of the undercard fights too. I want to see what that Sullivan guy got. Here, he's a pretty good up and comer.
Yeah.
Apparently, the winner of that fight's probably going to fight the winner of Canelo Triple G and Canelo next.
Yeah, they I don't know. You know what? I hate boxing. I love boxing, but I hate it. I hate the judging aspect to it. You could say that about any sport with judging. I also hate the networks. I bitched about this with Quaid on Tuesday, but I hate how the networks they basically, it's in their best interest, not the sport's best interest.
Right.
I hate that about boxing. You know, they don't have like the NFL. They don't have, you know, they have the WEC, the IBF, they have all these bodies, but they don't have like the NFL, where we're gonna all play each other. The winners are gonna play each other, and someone's gonna be a champ.
Yeah,
you know, that drives me nuts. And they've ruined boxing. I think so. Yeah. That's what I would say. UFC does better with matchups. You know.
Yeah, because UFC controls itself.
Exactly. UFC is a governing body. They make the matchups, but you also see, obviously, UFC is a very violent sport too. Guys don't really last because they are fighting the top guys. They don't get cupcake fights.
Right.
You know, if they're a top echelon, they're fighting a guy who's challenging them for their ranking or their belt. So I'm not a UFC guy per se. I can appreciate it, you know, but yeah. Yeah, that's what I hate about boxing. I just hate the ducking. And, you know, this is 5-6 years into this whole Canelo Triple G thing. And yeah, we had a fight 1 year ago, but that was 4 or 5 years into it, you know. And then it's just like delay after delay. It's just my patience is wearing thin with the sport.
Yeah, I hear you.
But as long as Triple G's fighting, I'm there. I would like to see Wilder and Joshua. I mean, that's ideally the next mega fight, but you know, they both have to win fights against pretty tough opponents in the meantime. Yeah. So we'll see.
One thing I want to mention that I checked out today was I got the Norm Macdonald book based on a true story on audiobook, and it's narrated by Norm Macdonald, which if you've ever heard him do stand up or on anything, you know that voice.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Holy shit, is it funny? It is one of
his own book.
Yeah, it is one of the funniest things, because like the story's called Based on a True Story, and like the story's like not true at all. Like follows along in his career, but like he'll just say goofy shit. Like the best was chapter 5. Chapter 5, ages 8 through 13. I don't remember. Chapter 6. It's so funny. I definitely like. I'm sure reading the book is great, but if you want the full Norm Macdonald experience, get the audiobook.
One time, I tried an audiobook. Of course, I'm cheap, so I tried a free one.
Yeah,
I was like, what's the one? It's like an old story. It's like 2 Cities by the Sea or something. Okay. I forget, you know. So I started downloading, and it's like 1 million fucking hours long. Then I started listening to it. Literally driving. Tale of 2 Cities. That's it. Yeah, sorry.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Exactly. I mean, Nick, it seriously take me a lifetime to get through this book on audio. And it is so impossible to follow because these people are like putting you to sleep. And I'm like, this fucking story sucks. And I listened to like a good 25 hours of it. And I was thinking, I'm gotta be close to being finished with this. Didn't even know what was happening, but I have to be close. Dude, I was on like the first, like, I would say first chapter, but I wasn't very far into it. And it was legitimately like 20 some hours. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Well, the Norm Macdonald book's only 7.5 hours.
Yeah, but see, I like Norm Macdonald. Yeah. And I like Dan Carlin. If I'm listening to that and driving, I could pay attention to what he's saying, you know?
Right.
But I'm listening, and actually, it wasn't on an app where they gave you, it was like a podcast that they read and almost acted out the book.
Oh, wow.
Dude. I mean, there was all different voices, and it was like, dude, this is awful. Like, this is a masterpiece. Like, yeah, so it's the same thing I left in the toilet this morning, if that's the case. So, yeah, I've never read that book, you know. Just to read some of this old literature, but who has that kind of time?
Yeah.
I mean, I've read some of it in college, but I'm not listening to that shit.
I didn't do any of my reading assignments in college. I think the best I did was when I was in grad school and I had to read. I don't even remember what the book was. I got halfway through it and was able to bullshit my way through the rest.
Yeah, that's basically what you do in undergrad because you have too much to read.
Yeah.
So I would like him, Tom, as my professor, because he'll put portions of his lecture online.
Yeah.
And then at least you could check, you could like play it, and you're like, okay, I'm not sure if I get that, and play it again, and then match it up with your notes. That's actually a really smart way to do it. But
it is. Which actually, when I did my grad school, I did it all online, so I had the videos and stuff.
Yeah,
they weren't as enthralling as Tom. So, like I said, I've watched Tom's lectures like.
Yeah, before you ever even did this. Yeah, just for that's like, I like that nerd shit. Like, I'll listen to 30 hours of Dan Carlin talk about World War I and all the little minor aspects of it, you know, in the big picture. And I love it. But yeah, some things just, I think it's all about how they deliver them to you.
Absolutely. So again, thanks to Tom Richey. Check him out on YouTube. Tom Richey, not .com, but yeah, on YouTube. And check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We're actually on iHeartRadio. You can listen to podcasts there. You just go download it, or you could tell your smart speaker. What are you doing?
I'm so artsy, dude. That's a Pope hat. Dude, you see the drawings I make and the crafts? Come on, man. I'm a Pope. Looks good, doesn't it?
And check us out on YouTube if you want to see Adam's Pope hat.
It's pretty impressive, I thought.
It was very, very nice. It actually,
wow.
Look what I did.
We might be getting a new one soon. Maybe it's me.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not.
I'll see at the White Smoke Rises over the next week. If not, I'll see you back here.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, dude.
Kelly Digital and kellydigitalpodcast.com. So check it out. All right, later.
All right, later.
Stop on here.